One of the biggest RC manufacturers in the world today is none other than Traxxas. Traxxas was first started in 1986 with the new concept of making fully ready-to-run RC cars. This new ready-to-run RC car would have all the same benefits of a hobby class kit, such as replaceable parts, hop-ups, and high-quality radio systems. But the new ready-to-run concept was slow because traditional RC cars had to be assembled. In 1987, Traxxas released their very first ready-to-run RC car called the Cat Buggy. Like any other RC car manufacturer with roots back to the late 80s and 90s, racing was a big part of the beginning years of Traxxas. Over the next few years, Traxxas started producing other models with information gathered on the racetrack. In 1988, Traxxas released the Bullet, which targeted the growing racing market that Associated Electronics had formed with the release of the revolutionary RC10. In 1989, Traxxas released their first monster truck, called the Sledgehammer. The Sledgehammer was powered by a single brushed motor and a Traxxas ESC, which included a much larger heatsink to withstand the heat from the heavier vehicle. Also made in 1989 was Traxxas' first ever RC boat. It was powered by two Stinger 20-turn motors. Traxxas also made three other RC cars in the late 80s, the Hawk, Radicator, and one on-road car. Until the 90s, RC racing's main classes had always been two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive buggies. But the late 80s and early 90s brought about a popular new class, stadium trucks. Stadium truck conversions began popping up in the late 80s, and the class was anchored by the release of Team Losey's Junior XT and Team Associated's RC10T. Traxxas joined by making their own stadium truck called the Trx1 Eagle. In 1990, Traxxas won its first ever national title with the Eagle. In 1991, Traxxas released the Trx1 Buggy after months of testing, which included Scott Montgomery's A-main finish at the IFMAR World Championships in Detroit. For the 1993 season, Traxxas released a new LS2 truck and the Trx3 Buggy. At the 1993 Roar Nationals, Valo and John Waters both entered the stock buggy class with the Trx3. Valo finished third and Waters was sixth. Racing was serious business by the mid-90s, with Team Losey and Team Associated both paying drivers to compete at the highest levels. Traxxas slowly faded away from the racing scene, and although they were always a staple of the hobby shop shelves, a certain product called the T-Max, which launched in 1999, thrust them into a whole new spotlight. late 90s brought about a change to Traxxas' RC vehicles. Traxxas made their new line of RC cars to appeal to the beginners. During this time, Traxxas came out with 4 popular models: the Stampede, Rustler, Bandit, and T-Max. With the success of the T-Max, Traxxas veered away from the racing market to appeal to the bashers. The mid to late 90s was a transition period for Traxxas. At the turn of the century, Traxxas decided to make an electric version of the T-Max. They called it the E-Max. Over the next couple years, many brands tried competing with Traxxas and the T-Max. But it turned out the only brand that could top Traxxas was Traxxas. In 2004, Traxxas came out with a nitro monster truck called the Revo. The Revo featured a new chassis and F1 style laydown shocks. In 2004, these new features were mind-blowing. During this time, Traxxas came out with 2 other Nitro RC car models. The Nitro 4Tech RC Car, which was an on-road touring car, and the Jado Nitro RC Car.
We are live in Granite, Wisconsin for the Traxxas Torx Series, and for 40 years this upstate Wisconsin town has been the off-road racing capital of the world.
In 2008, Traxxas made a big move into full-scale off-road racing. Traxxas became a full-time sponsor of the off-road series they called the Traxxas Torx Series. Traxxas demonstrated its products at events and had a Traxxas Mobile Support Center on site. The Mobile Support Center carried Traxxas parts, cars, trucks, and boats. During their first year of sponsoring the Torx series, Traxxas decided to make a 1/10 scale version of the Pro 2-wheel drive short course truck.
Involved in racing just to try to help better what we do as a business for the products that we're designing and building for our consumers. Sometimes we actually bring some things that we learn in radio control to full size. It's amazing that these things translate back and forth real well.
This truck that came out in 2008 is none other than the Traxxas Slash. The Traxxas Slash was one of the most popular RC cars ever made. One other notable truck to come out during this time was the Traxxas E-Revo. The E-Revo was an electric version of the Revo made in 2004. Start the final section of the history of Traxxas, we look at a sponsorship deal Traxxas made with NASCAR driver Kyle Busch. In 2010, Traxxas sponsored the number 18 Toyota Tundra of Kyle Busch in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series.
My favorite class of RC racing is the short course stuff, you know, racing the Traxxas Slashes and being able to race a 2-wheel drive and a 4-wheel drive and stuff like that. That's fun for me, you know, it's the dirt off-road background and you can kind of sling them around, bang them up a little bit.
In 2012, Traxxas launched its first ever aircraft products, the ready-to-fly DR1 helicopter and the QR1 quadcopter. Around this time, Traxxas came out with the X01 Rc Car. This on-road sports car could go 0 to 100 in 5 seconds. of the most popular RC cars released during this time has to be the X-Max. Released in 2015, the X-Max is the biggest RC car Traxxas has made. From 2010 to 2020, Traxxas released many more RC cars, boats, and drones. As we conclude today's video, I would like to thank everyone for watching this short film on the history of Traxxas. If you have not already, please consider subscribing and sharing the video with others who might be interested in this short film.
You know you're on track. Right there. Getting sideways. Up on the barrier. Out into the barrier. Oh!
Jenkins, hard hit.
I'm Cole Neely. Bye for now, and stay tuned for more videos in the future.